Such a sad statistic. Suicide takes the lives of nearly 40,000 Americans every year. And Robin Williams' recent death is drawing attention to the importance of knowing the warning signs and how to prevent it. Joining us this morning to share more about it and how we can prevent it is clinical psychologist Dr. Tim Hope. Dr. Tim Hope, wonderful to have you here as always. Now, September is National Suicide Awareness Month.
Right.
Such a perfect time to talk about it, raise awareness, and talk about prevention. Let's talk first about statistics.
Sure. So about 40,000 Americans die each year, unfortunately, of suicide. And that's actually about 3 times more than the number who die by homicides. We just speak a lot more about homicides because it's shocking and upsetting. And I think that's in part because we still overlook, there's still bias, there's still concern about whether mental illness and depression and suicide are things that we can talk about openly.
I think there is that negative stigma, which is really what people are talking about right now after Robin Williams' sudden, tragic death, that it's something that, you know, is called stupidity, or why would someone do that? People don't realize that it's an illness and that they need help.
That's right. So this, unfortunately, is an outcome. Most people who commit suicide have at least one psychiatric disorder, but not everyone does. And so, unfortunately, is an outcome of a mental illness that people are trying to cope with. So the more we can lift the veil of that stigma and decrease bias, the more we can talk about these things openly, the more likely we'll be able to recognize signs and symptoms, the more likely we'll be able to prevent tragedies.
That's right. And I think also it's just educating people on exactly what it is. I think, you know, there's such a difference between someone who is clinically depressed and upset with life. And we look at someone like Robin Williams, who was just such a light, so joyous, so funny, so happy. He was famous, he had money, you think he has everything, but he had a mental illness, which is
right. Unfortunately, depression is an equal opportunity disease, right?
Yes.
It affects everyone from every stripe of life, of every color, of every creed, of every walk of life, whether they're very wealthy or not. So we need to be able to talk about these concerns. We need to be able to bring it out into the open. You know, 500 people in Massachusetts died by suicide last year, and 12 times more than that tried to commit suicide. So it really is, unfortunately, pretty common. We really need to make it more aware. We need to do more talking about it. We need to keep talking about it, because then we can access resources. Then we can try and help ourselves, because it affects all of us, and we can help our friends and loved ones.
Yes, just like you said. I mean, I know we have heard in the past about teenagers, men, women. It affects everyone, young, old, man or woman.
Yeah, unfortunately, the highest rates of suicide are middle-aged men. The people who are most likely to die by suicide are older adults. But suicide is the second leading cause of young adults and third leading cause of death in our teenagers to just emerging adults. So it really is a very common concern that we really need to be talking about.
And everyone is loved. Everyone's life has purpose. Everyone's life is precious. So it's so sad when we hear about this. And it's true that there are so many ways you can prevent it if you just notice the warning signs. So, Dr. Hope, we will be back with you later on in the show to talk about warning signs and what we can do to prevent it.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Look forward to talking to you later on in the show. We are back with clinical psychologist Dr. Tim Hope. We're talking about Suicide Awareness Month. That is the month of September. Now, earlier in the show, we talked about statistics and who it affects and how it really is something that's being talked about more, that we've heard about the sudden death of Robin Williams. Now let's talk about really prevention, warning signs. What can we do to make a difference?
Right. So some of the warning signs. We know that the majority of people who do commit suicide do have a diagnosable clinical psychiatric disorder. So depression is the most common of those, but a severe anxiety disorder, a substance abuse disorder, or anyone who has attempted to hurt themselves on purpose or kill themselves in the past, they are at much greater risk for attempting suicide again in the future. So those are some risk factors that you might want to look out for.
Is it a red flag if someone does use it as a threat, tells someone? I mean, sometimes people may say it, not really mean it, but say it. Should someone take that as a warning sign?
Absolutely. If a person is talking about wanting to commit suicide, we always take that 100% seriously, because we can't get inside the mind of the person and know fully why they're saying what they're saying. And lots of people do give some kind of outward warning that they're going to commit suicide or thinking about it. Very few people do commit suicide without any kind of warning. So we want to take any of those messages very seriously. We want to try and connect people with resources and help.
And let's hope that we can prevent it always prevent it in whatever way we can, so that these statistics can change for the better. Let's talk about ways that we can prevent it. What should you do if you notice some of these warning signs that you described?
Right. So one of the most common things that I talk about is communication. So talk with the person. Ask them if they're feeling down, if they're feeling suicidal. Connect them to their doctor. Connect them to their clergy member, someone else that they feel close to and that they feel like they can trust. If not you, then someone else. You can always call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That's 800-273-TALK. You can go to your local emergency room. Your local hospital will have resources. If you look in your local newspaper, there are resources in there for groups of people who have either survived suicide or are contemplating suicide. So really there are many, many resources. Whether you're in school, you can go to your school psychologist, or in college, you can go to your counseling center. There are many resources all around us. You are not alone in this.
And people should never feel ashamed, never feel like you aren't strong enough or that you're weak. This is something that is a disease, and we need to talk about it as that, as an illness.
That's right. Like we talked about earlier, 40,000 people committed suicide last year. So that's a huge number of people. So it touches everyone's lives in some way or another. So because of that, if we can open those doors, reduce that stigma, reduce that bias, and open that openness towards asking for help and seeking help, we can get help. And we know that there are good, effective treatments.
Absolutely. And this month is all about making sure that we raise awareness and let everyone know that there are preventative measures you can take. So thank you so much, Dr. Hope, for being here. And it's great that we can educate our viewers on how to make a difference. Thank you. Wonderful to have you here. Up next.